Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our show, Leadership Table Talks. I'm your host, Anna Smith, and today we have a really special guest. I'm honored to have with us Ninfa Escobar. She's a PhD who brings a wealth of experience and a unique perspective to her current role as a director of talent acquisition and org development at the Harris Center for Mental Health and IDD in Houston, Texas, here in the US. Her in service delivery, her intimate understanding of the organization's mission and operations, I think provides a very unique edge in identifying and nurturing talent to drive forward its goals. She, of course, understands firsthand and nurturing talent to drive effective service delivery and leverage knowledge in sourcing and selecting candidates. Ninfa Escobar, she holds a PhD in leadership studies from Our Lady of the Lake University, and she combines both academic knowledge and practical tools to foster a productive, harmonious work environment and drive organizational success. So, one of the opportunities that I want to share as well is that a particular factor is that the Harris Center for Mental Health and ID is where Ninfa provides all of this wonderful work is as larger than 25 states in the US. So imagine the amount of responsibility, the amount of challenges, and the amount of leadership opportunities and possibilities that are present. So today we will explore together the opportunities and the complexities of how to thrive at these crossroads of mental health and effective leadership in the digital age. Ninfa, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Wonderful. And Ninfa, in preparation for our conversation today, I wanted to make sure and get some of the latest statistics around mental health, especially in the workplace, and certainly looking for better ones or some that might have enhanced. But one of them that was very, very striking to me was that about 75% of employees have really struggled with an issue that has affected their mental health across the US. So 75% of employees, and yet 8 out of 10 workers with a mental health condition say that shame and stigma prevents them from seeking mental health care. So my first question to you is, in today's fast-paced digital world, what have you observed in terms of challenges that leaders have or are facing in maintaining mental well-being themselves?
Yeah. So we're a little unique in that, of course, we're part of the workforce that also struggles with mental health, but then we serve those that have mental health as well. And so it's unique in that regard because we're the first ones to jump in and say, we'll help, we'll take this client, we'll offer services, and we may not be as forthcoming to access services for ourselves. I think one of the things that I've done as a leader is just really focused on building trust on my team, so that they, at minimum, feel comfortable to come in and say something's not right, right? And then from there, I can have the opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about the things that our organization offers. So we have an employee assistance program where our employees can get up to 5 free sessions per different issues. They can almost get up to 25 free sessions through our employee assistance program. And so one of the benefits, so you said some really great things and I appreciate that, but essentially I've grown up in the organization, right? I started here as a service coordinator in 2007 and have worked my way up. And so through that, I've been able to see different things throughout the organizations and things that help and things that maybe not so much. But one of the benefits I had was I came into org development and we do new employee orientation. And so one of my instructors, she's amazing. She understands the importance of mental health and the stigma that surrounds it. And so in new employer orientation, not only does she talk about our employee assistance program, but she talks about her experience and what that was like for her. And I think that's been just a game changer for some of our new employees.
And as I'm listening to this opportunity, Ninfa, this type of program, I'm also interested in understanding a little bit more of any, either a personal or professional anecdote on how leaders, whether inside Harris Health or outside, some of the clients, which I love the way in which you refer to the patients or the clients as well, might have navigated this balance between having these very complex roles of leading people in these complex times, and at the same time maintaining their mental health or the stress levels in check.
Yeah. So, I walk with the flag of emotional intelligence. That is so important. That is the foundational skill that leaders need to have in order to be successful. And when I say successful, it depends on how you define it. I define successful as we have a team that's working towards the same goal. We trust each other, we work together. Now, sometimes the goal may not happen, right? Because we're human. Um, but we have enough trust on our team to say, okay, we didn't meet it, but what are we going to do next time to make sure that that happens?
Mhm.
So emotional intelligence is key for a leader. We keep the calmness of our team, right? Talent acquisition is a big topic right now because everybody wants the best candidate and they want them like yesterday, right? And so if I were to go to meetings where these conversations are being had about, what can we do better? What can we do different? And then I came back to my team in a frazzle, right? That would completely change the dynamics of my team, right? And so I think the first thing is thinking about the basics. And, I'm on this charge of ruthless execution of the basics is what leads to excellence. And so sometimes we want to do all these great things for our employees, but are we doing the basics? So the basics to me are demonstrating emotional intelligence, knowing how we feel and how we impact others, so that we can modify that to get the best outcomes that we can get in relationship building, right? um, we spend the majority of time at work, the majority of our lives.
Yeah.
It should be somewhere that you look forward to coming to, and if it's not, you should have the opportunity to speak to your leader about why that's not the case, and what we can do together to make it a more positive environment for them.
That's such a critical point, and if I think that as I think about the opportunity to create psychological safety, that it has definitely, it has always been important, but right now it has become critical, right? To ensure that you create this environment where people don't have an issue putting themselves forward and sharing some of the challenges that they may be facing and having this. How do you, what are some of the things that you believe effective leaders need to do in order to create that psychological safety in their environment and across the board, I think?
Yeah. We need to act human. We need to let our team know that we also make mistakes, that we're not in any way perfect, and that we're all learning together, right? If we're trying to accomplish something that's brand new, we're all learning together and we're going alongside it together, right? So that's the one thing, is saying that we've messed up from time to time, right? I think sometimes we get so caught up in the error that we forget that the most important thing after the error is what we did with that, right? So, I have a lot of frank conversations with my team, and, I'm not the best at this topic. What does everybody else think? Share with me your expertise on these different things. And so a lot of it is about dialogue. Anytime I teach on leadership development,
Mhm.
everything is about a dialogue, having a conversation. So if something didn't happen, let's sit down and let's talk about why it didn't happen, or more importantly, what are we going to do so that it happens moving forward. um, but admitting your mistakes, having conversations with your team, getting to know them for who they are. They work here, but there's somebody else outside of this organization. Who are they? What's important to them? You'll be surprised how much their own interests outside of work can actually benefit the organization. And it's only because we had a conversation to explore that with them.
That's so important, and especially I'm curious to get your perspective as well. In fact, thinking about our current combination of work environments, meaning we have in office, we have hybrid, and we have remote in, across different organizations, across different geographies, etc. From this last point that you just made, how do you get to connect and really connect with everyone in your team, and the necessary people that you need to in order to achieve your goals?
So technology is awesome, right? Many times, and again, nothing that I say today is groundbreaking. It's all basics and small things that we can do to day to day.
Mhm.
From time to time, I would just send a GIF via Teams to one of my team members that's funny, right? And they'll laugh and they'll come back. I mean, it's little connections like that that sometimes make the greatest impact, right? I'm not a big talker on the phone. I'm just not. I don't know if that happened after COVID. So I'm a texter and I'm gonna Teams people. But those little things sometimes can make a big impact, right? And so I'll just send a Teams message with a GIF and say, hey, just checking in, making sure everything's fine, or that you didn't need anything. Um, so being cognizant to do that, right? Now, I don't have 100% remote team. They come in once a week. And so that helps to maintain that connection. But
Mhm.
I understand that some teams are, international. They can't do that. We do have meetings every week to kind of go over what's going on, what are the barriers. And so just maintaining that constant kind of check-in has helped tremendously. But again, in alignment with being human, having conversations, saying this didn't go so well, what can we do next time? When
Right.
whenever we focus on what we can do next time, it takes away a little bit of that shame if you feel that you did something wrong, right? Because I want to encourage more of you have the ability to make this correct rather something went wrong, right?
It's translating to me, or giving me painting in my mind an infa. Rather than failure, it's learning,
Mhm.
right? It's knowing your team and capitalizing on that, on their strengths, on their areas of opportunity, how you optimize that communication. And I do know that we have questions from our audience, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring at least one of them to you, because there's definitely some very interesting ones.
Sure.
So, a question from Michael. Thank you, Michael. So, should the workplace take a proactive stance to mental health by setting up mandatory conference style meetings with healthcare professionals?
So we've done a couple of things here, and I think when I think of mental health, I think about it as just finding ways to connect with others, right? So we've done a couple of things. We're in the works of implementing a peer responder program, and what that is that if you, as a mental health clinician, or actually anybody in our organization, goes through a significant event and wants to talk with somebody, they
Mhm.
can pick up the phone and that call will be with a fellow peer so that you have immediate support in that moment. And so that doesn't address the mental health in general, but we're trying to be very intentional about how do we support our staff day to day. So the peer responder program is one. Um, I talked about employee assistance program earlier. So
Mhm.
depending on the EAP program that you have, they might have other options beyond the one-to-one counseling. And so here at our organization, we have quarterly offsite leadership development days, and so we've brought in our employee assistance program to do a workshop. And then at the end, they did this awesome thing where they went over all of the services. And then the person that was presenting was a therapist. And so she reassured people that it is 100% confidential and nobody will know that you access these services. And I really, really like that because sometimes we say that, but our employees, may not believe it. And so we've had little exposures like that kind of help at least have the conversation of how do we support one another? Do people know what's available? And can we explain it better so that they understand these things that are out there for them?
I was reflecting exactly on the amount of awareness that employees might have in any organization, if you may, related to mental health. So, this is definitely a big first step for anyone out there. Please don't hesitate to reach out to, the team in benefits, etc. Just make sure that that's available. Don't wait one more day. I would definitely say. We have another question here. What should you do if you are a leader and sense that a remote employee has a substance abuse or a mental health challenge going on? How should you address it?
Yeah. So definitely we want to engage with our HR business partners. Every organization might have a different term for them. But reaching out to HR allows you to have a dialogue and a conversation about what it is you're seeing. What is it that is prompting um, th- this thought that this is happening with your remote employee? And so I think that that's a really great start, because sometimes we're all in our own world, and sometimes we see things, but when we go to kind of process it, and right, that's what therapy is, right? You're having somebody be a good springboard for the information that you think in your brain, right? Just because we think something doesn't mean we need to believe it. um, but I would consult with your HR representative to talk about your concerns, and then they're going to ask, what evidence do we have, or what suspicions, or what can we support, just so that when it is discussed with the employee, we know what we're talking about, right? I mean, let's put ourselves in the shoes of our employee. What if they're on medication that is maybe causing the same type of effects?
Mm.
It's something different, right? We don't know. And so having a conversation with HR, and then from there determining what might be the best step, is what I would recommend.
Excellent, excellent. So, again, reach out to the people inside the organization in this particular case that can partner with you to make sure that there is an assessment or an evaluation, a conversation with this particular individual, right?
And more than likely, organizations have policies that might address those things, that give you better direction about what we're going to do so that we're fair and consistent with everybody that might have come into that situation.
Right, right. That's correct. And as you think about, and we start to think about 2024, and I'm sure you've been thinking about it for a while now in preparation for, what either skill set or particular capabilities that you might be targeting for anybody that manages people, just from a management perspective or leadership perspective. Is there any particular differences, Ninfa, for you guys between what has been the focus this year and 2024?
Yeah, so we just started. We had not had standardized leadership development at the organization, and so we're implementing that now.
Hmm.
And so we called it Lead On, the leadership journey, and it's a series of courses that they'll take. But the foundation is emotional intelligence. So I teach that course to our newest leaders. So we're doing a little bit of a phased approach because we want all new leaders to get this new training within a designated time of them taking on the position. Um, but the foundation is emotional intelligence, because like I tell everybody, I can teach you the most amazing management leadership strategies, but none of that matters if you cannot manage your emotions, right? And so that is the foundation. And so we've started that, and it's not something that is always the, like, when you think about going to leadership training, I don't think that's the first thing that comes up, right? Let's talk
Hmm.
about emotional intelligence. Mostly the first question that comes up is, how do I handle performance and how do I get it written down, right? And so we have to be like, that is part of this, and we're going to get there. But first, we need to understand, how do we have conversations? How do we make sure that we use our emotions in the best way, right? So in the example that I use is, let's say you're caught in traffic for 2 hours and you get to work and you're annoyed. Is that the best time to have a performance conversation, right? Probably not, because we're just in this emotion state, right? You're not going to be as effective as you would be if you were not experiencing those emotions. So we started it in August. We're making some tweaks because, again, we're learning, right? We're not perfect.
Mhm.
We're making some tweaks based upon feedback, and then we're going to continue to add to that coming in FY24. But the goal is that every new leader receives that training, and then we're going to loop back around to our existing leaders to offer that same thing. And so that way we're all kind of utilizing the same type of standardized framework, in terms, at least in the foundation of it, right? Emotional intelligence is going to be the core of what we continue to focus on in 24.
That's such a valuable and high impact aspect. And as I'm thinking about, all of them are involved in talent acquisition as well, right? They are doing interviews, etc. So you're pulling that red thread of emotional intelligence as well as part of those interviews, and when they do performance evaluations and all of that. So you're building their muscle, but first you're giving them the foundations, etc. So that's very smart. That's very smart. One other area that I think is I would be remiss if I didn't bring it as well, is that technology and the challenges and opportunities that technology is bringing for all of us, not only people managers or leaders, right? I'm curious, Ninfa, what is the probably the main challenge or concern that leaders may have relative to incorporating, for example, artificial intelligence in the day-to-day work? What are some of the questions they may have, and how, from your angle, I might be able to help them?
Yeah. So, being in talent acquisition, ChatGPT and Bard are amazing talent acquisition tools. So, when the conversation started coming up about ChatGPT, which is generative AI, um, I did some research. And that's typically my approach is I play with things first, I figure it out, then I bring it to the team, right? Because I definitely don't want to bring something that is not going to be valuable to them. So I did some research, and then I came back to my team and I said, "Hey, this really cool tool can really help elevate our game, right?" And so I bought them. There's actually a book. It's like HR Recruiters Chat GPT book, and I bought everyone a book. Um, and I said, with generative AI coming, there might be some concern that the role of talent acquisition goes away, right? And so what I shared with them is, and what I heard in a webinar is that generative AI is your Iron Man suit, right? So you still need somebody to run the suit. It's going to make you Iron Man. And so I say all that to say that I did my very best to make them comfortable with the tool as something that is to enhance their skills versus replace their skills.
Mhm.
Um, and so anybody that's ever asked me about ChatGPT, generative AI, I share those benefits, and I've become really good at prompting, by the way. Um, but I think it's just a fear of the unknown and of the not really understanding it. Um, I wanted to actually introduce it during performance appraisals, because as a not writing your performance appraisal, so some people miss that generative AI to me is a great learning partner, right?
Mhm.
Because not only does it tell you what might be better, it tells you why. And so if you learn those things, you're enhancing your skills. So it's not just doing the work for you, it's giving you some really great feedback. And so during performance appraisal time, I thought, it would be really great tool for our leaders to check and ensure that what they're writing in their performance appraisals is objective, because you can actually put the information in chat gpt and ask it that question: is this information objective? And it'll give you feedback on whether it is or it isn't, right? um, but I was told that we might not be ready. And so we didn't roll it out. And so a lot of it depends on your organization and your comfort level. But even if your organization is not on board, I'd say for you to dig in, learn, understand what the benefits are, because I think sometimes with change, we just see all the things that could go wrong. And there is some actually really great benefits that can enhance what we do day to day.
Mhm, mhm. I think that this can definitely be another a complete roundtable, right, Ninfa, relative to how to use any type of technology in favor of HR and all of the talent strategies. We have another question here. If you suspect, and from New Life Curator, so if you suspect an employee or in someone else's team is having an issue with substances, do you approach their manager or HR?
Um, that's a hard one, because there's different circumstances, right? And I wouldn't want to give just a general response. I would say that dialogue again is important. And so if you feel comfortable with that manager, you might be able to have a conversation, but I would defer to HR again. There's, there's different circumstances surrounding substances, and we want to, again, we want to be fair and consistent to everybody, right?
Mhm,
And so I bring up the, we might see effects of certain things, but we don't know what those are. Again, they might be on medication, they might be different things. And so
mhm,
HR is probably your best soundbar to make sure that you have a conversation about what that situation is, and then determine from that point forward um, what you want to do. Because the last thing you want to do is get yourself into a situation where an employee, let's say we're wrong, right? Um,
yes.
and that employee now has a manager that maybe has a certain perception of them. And so we want to make sure that all of our details are correct and accurate. And so HR would probably be your best bet, to at least have that conversation about next steps.
Thank you. And I greatly appreciate how you also remind us of the context that is so critical in each one of these cases, right? It's not as obvious as it may seem. These can save or destroy professional life. Thank you. That's very important. And thank you, Michael, for another great question here. With the many areas that mental health encompass, are there strategies to deal with the growing concerns of overdose, suicide, and PTSD?
Um, so, if we're speaking about just in general of the population,
Mhm,
there are different things here at our organization that we do. So we have the Zero Suicide Initiative, um, and so we're like the local safety net of community behavioral health services. And so the way that we function is we have funds from the state, from different grants that allow us to do different projects.
mhm,
And so I do know that we have that initiative, and a lot of that initiative is surrounding education, making sure that our mental health clinicians are specifically trained on um, evidence-based practices to best serve our population.
mhm,
I can't speak to all of the amazing things that our organization does, but we do use cognitive behavioral therapy here with those that we serve. I do know that we have a quality and clinical transformation team that looks at the data and tries to find ways that we can implement that will be preventative in terms of providing better services to these types of issues that our population faces.
Okay. So again, get informed relative to whether it's your county in this case or your organization. Make sure that you reach out to the right people as soon as possible. That's probably the most important message that I'm getting, Ninfa. And as we're approaching the end of our awesome conversation today, I would love to ask you, as we're approaching the end of the year, what would you recommend for leaders that feel overwhelmed and overstressed with after a very, a very rich year of many, many things in preparation for next year? What practices or strategies would you recommend? Maybe a couple.
Yeah. So taking time off is good. So you don't have to take weeks and weeks of time off. And this is a workaholic speaking here, right? Like I struggle with this too. And I make sure that my team takes time off. But even 4 hours, right, on a Friday can make a world of difference in stepping back from all of the things that are going on. So encouraging that for yourself and your team. You know, I've never been a big mindfulness person. So our organization purchases Headspace for everyone here.
Okay.
And one of my team members came in and she goes, "Okay, we're going to do it together." She forced me to do it. And I did actually feel very good after that.
Yep.
So any mindfulness things, they just take a minute. But the biggest thing is to step away. Even so, Dr. Amit Sood does some great work on stress. And what he says is that taking every 90 minutes, our brain needs a break. And we have to step away to optimize how we use our brain. And so if you're like, I'm so busy, right? Because we all are, because it seems that we're only getting more things. Um, think about it in terms of like, but if I take this break, it's actually going to make me work more efficiently than if I run through that. So again, basics, right? Trying to find ways to take a day off. If you can't take a day, take an hour, leave early,
Mhm.
don't work during your lunch. Find ways to make a break within your day. Find something that works for you in terms of mindfulness. Watching a YouTube video that is incredibly funny can release all of these types of hormones within our body that makes us feel better, right?
Mm.
Even doing those little things can help tremendously.
Thank you. What I'm hearing is, setting boundaries and, paying attention to the habits that we have that we might need to modify. And probably the last bit that I got as well, Ninfa, is don't try, humongous things at the same time. It's smaller changes that help, for the longer run.
Right.
Hopefully
Well,
that's
I saw this quote that says, "Your success is hidden in your daily habits." Right.
there you go. I love that. I love that. Ninfa, thank you so much for everything and for everyone listening today. If you want to send a personalized invite in LinkedIn for Dr. Escobar, I'm sure she'll be able to accept that. And again, thanks again, Ninfa, for a wonderful session. I hope you and your family a wonderful holiday season and, of course, an amazing 2024. Thank
Thank
again.
you, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you.